Today's video going to show you the 3 lessons that I learned about optimizing energy and also testosterone. Testosterone is a pretty important hormone for men, but that's true also for the ladies, just not as important. Now, the very first thing that I learned when I was being coached to get this right for the first time ever is that we've got to be out of energy flux. So what does that mean? Well, if you're in energy flux, you're going to be storing more energy than you'll be burning through. Now, there's 2 kinds of tired. There's tired where you're irritable and you've had enough and you just don't give a fuck. Or there's tired where you've got sleep pressure. Now, sleep pressure is what you should feel about 7 or 8 o'clock at night. It's just like, man, I'm tired and I had a really good day. I accomplished a lot because you had energy throughout the day. You were burning through energy. So the question becomes, how do you get out of energy flux and into energy surplus? It's a multifaceted question, and we have to look at it from multiple angles. The first thing we need to understand is that the bulk of our energy is created by something inside each of our cells called ATP, adenosine triphosphate. Now, what has to happen to burn energy instead of storing it as body fat? Well, magnesium comes along to that ATP, adenosine triphosphate. So there's 3 phosphate molecules on it, and magnesium binds to it and it cleaves off a phosphate, just like a match. You've got energy. You might be thinking, well, shit, I'll just get some magnesium. Hold on a second. There's something else we need to do. But magnesium is certainly a big player, and the researchers have found that 70% of the population is kind of low in magnesium. Now, that's the metabolism. It's not one thing is going to keep all these pathways turning. You need optimal vitamin and mineral status. So another thing that I learned was that if you just go haphazardly and start supplementing and thinking you're getting enough, it can actually cause, if you get too much, you've ever heard that saying before, too much of a good thing ain't necessarily a good thing. Well, it's true. The researchers have shown that it can cause DNA damage. So you might be thinking, damn, this seems complicated. It is, and it isn't. What I do is select for nutrient-dense foods, and that basically fills all the gaps in the metabolism. But as I've learned from really smart scientists like Dr. James Di Nicolantonio, ever since the 1920s and 30s, Big Ag, with their big ass synthetic fertilizers, has depleted the soil of nutrients. Now, that's problem number 1. Problem number 2 is that they now absorb more heavy metals, and heavy metals, terribly dangerous for your body, for your brain, for the gonads. And you've got to really increase the liver's capacity to get rid of these heavy metals and chemicals. But as Dr. James says here, the alarming fact is that food, right, that we're eating doesn't contain enough minerals to keep all these pathways turning. So we have to supplement these minerals. And again, just don't go at this and think well, I'll just throw some shit under the fire and hopefully it'll work, because that necessarily won't work. So that's kind of why I work with peak performance specialists: nutrition, hormones, genetics, sexual performance. I don't want to leave anything to chance. I'm 50. I've got a big game to play. So that's problem number 1. We've got to be in energy surplus to keep all these pathways turning. And again, critically, there's 2 kinds of tired. There's irritable tired. Fuck it. I've had enough. Screw this, right? Or sleep pressure. And when you've got sleep pressure, you've burned through your energy, you're staying lean, and you're focused longer, and you're doing your best work. So 7, 8 o'clock, I'm tired, and you go to sleep, you get deep restorative sleep, you wake up and repeat that day. And that's what it should be like. Now, the next big problem that we face, I'm just finding the slide. Hang on a second. I'm actually having trouble finding the slide. Here it is here. Is metabolic stress. Now, there is so much metabolic stress in the modern world, it's not even funny. And to do a deep dive here today is impossible. But suffice to say, I'll be putting out another video in the next week to dive deep into metabolic stress. You can take that off the table. So when you take metabolic stress off the table, your energy is not being depleted. And when your energy is not being depleted, you can spend it on creating testosterone. You can spend it creating neurotransmitters for higher thinking, for focus, for creative imagination, from doing your best work. Peak performers that I've learned from, they don't leave anything to chance. They've got a mechanistic system to perform each day. And this is just an overview of what's possible, but you have to be in energy surplus and take metabolic stress off the table. And guess what? On the next video, I'm going to show you a little bit about genetics and how you can enhance your genetics. And it's pretty simple to do in this modern world. But I'm also going to show you, where is it? That this is one metabolic stress that we have to take off the table, because when you've got insulin resistance, as you can see here, it decreases the dig cell production of testosterone. So that's the gonads, right? It takes it off the table. So how do you know? But just before I tell you this, it's estimated that up to 80% of people on the planet have some form of insulin resistance. So this is what's going to happen. Elevated insulin increases hunger, tiredness, so you're irritable, heightened perceived pleasantness of sweet taste. And guess what happens when you have sweets? You want something salty to balance it out. That's what's happening. And increased food intake. So we're in a constant state of energy flux. Our energy's up and down all over the fucking place, and we're getting fatter, tighter, lazy, and we blame ourselves. It's not you. You just haven't figured this out yet. And I decided that at 48, I've got a big game to play, and I need energy. I need testosterone. I need all of my biology working for me rather than against me. I want my hormones and my neurotransmitters to do the heavy lifting for me, so I'm no longer handicapped. So the next video that we'll dive into is going to take off the table metabolic stress. So if you found this interesting, give it a thumbs up. And if you got anything to add to this conversation, drop them in the comments below. I would just absolutely love it and appreciate it if you do that. It gives me a better reach here on YouTube, and I want to help as many men as I can to take life on. I want them to know what it feels like to have consistent energy, high optimal levels of testosterone, because we don't want low testosterone. We don't want to be bowing our head and dragging our feet as men. We want to punch it. We want to kick it. We want to take life on, and we want to be the hero in our life and critically in the eyes of our family, our kids. I want my kids to look to me as their hero, not some other person. What about you? So if you like this, again, give it a thumbs up. And if you got anything to add to the conversation, drop it in the comments below. And on the next video, we're going to take off the table low testosterone, low energy. And how we're going to do that is to take metabolic stress off the table, this shit right here. So all of these drive into it, and metabolic stress drains your energy, makes you feel irritable, and it intensifies negative thoughts. So when we get this off the table, it's a long fucking step in the right direction. My name is Mark Iron, and I am hungry for life. And if you're hungry and you want to take life on, you haven't figured this out yet, stick with me. I'm going to show you how to do that and how I've done it and how I'm helping men do the same thing.